in direct working with your colleague, is carrying forward to bring forward all this information. Right. Is that all fair?
They're 100% right.
And lastly, is it not true that whatever's being presented to you all, whatever information is given to you, to the extent that you're adding any redactions or anything, your colleagues on the other side of the aisle are getting the unredacted material.
They get exactly what we get.
So to the extent that you make a determination about releasing something, to the extent there was something politically sensitive or untoward, your colleagues on the other side of the aisle would have all the same information and they could raise a
They could
fuss
call us out
correct?
on it at that very second.
Yeah. I just think for the average person watching this, to be very clear, the Trump administration indicted Epstein. The Trump administration went after Maxwell. The Trump administration released records within 2 months of assuming office. The Trump administration has been complying with subpoenas and providing information to the Oversight Committee. Republican Oversight Committee has been putting forward information. We now have 34,000 more records out for the public to be able to look at. In addition to the reality that the people charged with prosecuting crimes have to be able to look at information that isn't necessarily going to be made public and shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Correct.
Like, we don't just say, oh, here's the mob boss files. Right. Here, America, go forward and find all the mobsters. We don't do that with drug kingpins or cartels, right? We don't just say, man, there's a lot of bad guys out there and we got a whole file of stuff. Who are you protecting, right? We have oversight, we look at it, and you're conducting that oversight on a bipartisan basis. Is that true?
That's true.
I yield back.
Thank you. Ms. Houchin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've heard a lot of words tonight from our Democrats across the aisle. We've heard words like shameful and things don't smell right. Well, what I think is shameful is playing political games with these victims. What I think it doesn't smell right is only caring about these issues when campaigning on it. Democrats under Joe Biden had 4 years to release everything, and they didn't release a thing. Chairman Comer, you've now released more than 30,000 pages of documents related to the Epstein files. How many pages of documents were released under the Biden administration?
0.
You know how I know this is political gamesmanship? Because now, by amendment to unrelated bills in nearly each of our committees, the Democrats have put forward Epstein file amendments to unrelated things, including in the Rules Committee. That's not a serious effort in seeking transparency or justice. If they were serious about it, they would have already done it.
Absolutely.
Now it is House Republicans under your chairmanship and your leadership, Mr. Comer, providing the only transparency that anyone has done to date, save for the Trump administration and what they've already done. And it's only because of your work that we know the scope of the number of victims today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And there are key differences between this resolution that we're considering in our committee and the Massey-Connor resolution. Mr. Chairman, does the Massey-Connor resolution request all documents from the Epstein estate related to Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell with a subpoena that has the force of law?
No, and we subpoenaed the estate for all the documents. That's not mentioned in the discharge petition.
Does this current resolution include requests that all documents related to the Epstein estate be released under subpoena with the force of law?
Our resolution does, yes.
Does the Massey-Connor resolution issue any deposition subpoenas for testimony?
No.
Does our resolution?
Yes, 11 thus far.
Does the Massey-Connor resolution request Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's bank records from the Treasury?
No.
Does our resolution?
Yes, and that's going to be a big deal. I will predict that will be a big deal, the bank records.
Does the Massey-Connor resolution require any interviews to be scheduled?
No.
Does our resolution?
Yes.
So forgive me if I'm suspicious of the motives of our colleagues who were silent on Epstein for 4 years. And one of the things that has been discussed today is, well, why not just do the Massey resolution? Well, I think we've laid out some of those reasons why, but also because doing this resolution allows your important work to continue right now without having to wait on the Senate to pass it or the President to sign it. Is that correct?
That's correct. I would hate to wait on the Senate for anything, but especially this. It would slow us down.
So the Democrats are cloaking themselves in the victimhood of the families and the young women that were heinously abused. That is beneath this committee. Their so-called concern only eventualized when they thought they could derail President Trump's agenda by using the Epstein files as a cudgel, when we know that the only administration to ever provide any transparency has been the Trump administration and House Republicans' leadership on the Oversight Committee.
Correct.
One of the things that I think disgusts me the most is when we talk about how Republicans are abandoning victims and we don't care about human trafficked women and children. When under the Biden administration, we know that the Department of Homeland Security lost track of thousands of migrant children. They failed to provide complete sponsor addresses for 31,000 accompanied minor children. Without sponsor addresses, law enforcement had no ability to track them. DHS officers under the Biden administration failed to enroll over 233,000 migrant children who crossed the border since January of 21 in immigration proceedings, increasing their risk of being human trafficked and exploited. Of the ones they did enroll, 43,000 failed to appear. Health and Human Services failed to provide updated sponsor information to DHS when sponsors changed addresses, further hindering DHS's ability to find children. So we know that law enforcement has extreme concerns about the way in which these children were handled under the Biden administration, but we haven't heard our Democrat colleagues express an ounce of concern for the 233,000 children that have been misplaced and 43,000 who just didn't appear. In fact, 24,100 migrant children of that number were placed with unrelated sponsors or distant relatives that law enforcement has concerned that these children are at higher risk of trafficking. I worked in child services. I know what stringent requirements are necessary for making sure that children who are in placement are protected. The Biden administration did none of that, and our Democrat colleagues have remained silent. I think that is horrible, absolutely horrible, to sit here today and lecture us on how we do or don't care about the victims of human trafficking when the Republicans are the only ones who've provided any transparency at all. I think it's despicable. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you very much. Mr. Langworthy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that my colleague from Indiana, Mrs. Houchin, did a pretty brilliant job going point by point through the Massey resolution and showing why it's not equipped to get the answers that the Oversight Committee is. And I want to thank the chairman for your work for the last 5 weeks and the ranking member. And hopefully we can get to a place of bipartisanship here. Democrats have tried to rewrite history in relates to Epstein over the last 2 months. These files sat under lock and key, and they stood by and did nothing for the last 4 years, as many of my colleagues have pointed out here. These sudden calls for transparency only came after the Republicans in the majority were achieving the agenda that they ran on. They looked for a distraction. They looked for a political tool. And this is a pretty craven political tool to question the character of your colleagues in the name calling and the assaults on individual member character because of this issue, when it was actually your party, when it was in power and had the opportunity to do something with it, and you did nothing. The fact is Republicans have led the way on transparency from the very beginning. It was the House Rules Republicans who first advanced meaningful calls to release the Epstein files. And since then, Chairman Comer, I salute you. You've already publicized 34,000 plus documents today from the Department of Justice. The subpoenas in the Epstein estate, I think that's a huge step towards transparency in conducting interviews with key officials with many, many more to come. And meanwhile, the Democrats have been all over the map. First, they demanded the release of files with no protections for the victims. Then they scrambled to backfill safeguards and then flip-flopped on whether or not the resolutions even matter. This approach is not grounded in principle. It is grounded in pure craven politics. We've heard a lot of fear-mongering, misinformation. Chairman Comer, is there anything you'd like to respond or clear up? I'm the last one up here on the dais, and I'd like to give you some time.
No, I appreciate it. I'll just state again, I really believe that this can be a bipartisan investigation. This is a bipartisan issue. the American people, whether you're liberal or conservative, whether you're urban or rural, they're interested in the Epstein tragedy. They want to know who all was involved. They want to know if the government was involved. They want names, and they want some accountability. They want justice for the victims, and I hope that's what we can do, and we're well on our way. I mean, I think that some of the Democrats on the Rules Committee are trying to create a false narrative that nothing's been done and the Republicans are against releasing the Epstein files. We just released 34,000 pages. We've already deposed a former Republican attorney general. We're fixing to bring in another former U.S. attorney who served in the Trump administration as a cabinet secretary. We haven't heard back from many Democrats yet that we've subpoenaed. So I think the Republicans have stepped up, not just in Congress, but also in the Trump administration, releasing the Epstein files. I expect to have 100% of the Epstein files. And look, as soon as we get them, we're going to look at them, and we'll make sure that no names of victims are published who don't want their names published. If Mr. Garcia sees something fishy, I'm sure he'll cry foul, and I know that the media will pick it up. So we're going to do everything we can to be 100% transparent and expeditious. And I think that what we're doing tonight will help us if we end up in court with anything. But the discharge petition and waiting for the whole process, that just slows us down. And we're moving at a rapid pace, and hopefully with this resolution we can keep moving. And like I said, we've already got scheduled dates for more interviews and expect to receive more documents. So September the 8th is when the state is going to turn over the document. We'll be hopefully looking at bank records very soon. So I think you're going to see a lot. We've already moved quickly over the last 30 days, and I think you're going to see a lot more movement over the next 30 days.
Thank you for your leadership, Mr. Chairman, and Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Langworthy. Gentlemen, I believe that concludes the questions and answers, and I appreciate your coming. You are dismissed from the committee.